Today on TimesCast, anticipating a crackdown, a growing number of Syrian refugees cross into Turkey. Arizona's wildfire threatens blackouts for hundreds of thousands of homes. And at a meeting in Abu Dhabi, world leaders discuss how to finance Libya's opposition.
Turkish foreign minister said that around 2,500 Syrians have so far entered in Turkey seeking shelter from the violence that they've escaped back there in their homes. 1,050 people had entered in Turkey in the last 24 hours. So we have rapidly increasing number there from hundreds to thousands. Because the borderline between Turkey and Syria is very casual, people have been basically shuffling back and forth in normal days. But now that the numbers of the refugees have increased rapidly, this had prompted the Turkish government to take immediate action and build a second refugee camp. Both are a very large compound of the former public tobacco agency, Turkish Crescent. They built big white tents. In a way, it is a very comforting feeling for Syrians, but we know that there are hundreds on the other side of the Turkish borders still considering whether they should come to Turkey or stay where they are. They fear that once they come into Turkey as refugees and wanted to go back to their homes at one point, they might be troubled by the Syrian regime forces.
This is Mark Lacey with the New York Times, and I'm in eastern Arizona. This massive wildfire out here in the east of the state is affecting power in the area. There are high-voltage transmission lines that run through the east of the state, and there's a great deal of fear that the entire region could be affected, that there may be rolling blackouts across several states, and that's the next big worry from this fire. If the power here is interrupted, utilities are going to be purchasing power from other areas of the country. This massive fire has already affected roughly 10,000 people in eastern Arizona. People have been forced to flee their homes. But if these transmission lines go down, the number of people affected will shoot up exponentially.
I'm Stephen Lee Myers. I'm in Abu Dhabi for the third meeting of what they call the Libya Contact Group. The group here today agreed to essentially complete a mechanism that allows money to start flowing to the rebel forces, the TNC, or Transitional National Council, which is in eastern Libya. The Security Council resolutions against the Libyan government froze billions of dollars of assets and imposed sanctions on the government. Because that government legally is still in power and is still the recognized government, the sanctions remain in effect and also then affect the rebels. So what they've been doing at this contact group meeting is trying to figure out financial mechanisms that would allow money to be transferred to the rebels. The Australian Foreign Minister said today that the days of the regime are well and truly numbered, and that for that reason there's a greater sense of urgency in beginning preparations for a transition that will take place once the Gaddafi regime goes.
Well, this is truly a tale of one man, Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi. NATO has determined with the rebels that he has to go. On Tuesday we saw by far the heaviest bombing sorties of the war over Tripoli. I counted over 80 strikes, most of them in daylight. And that's, by the way, not only his only problem. There is virtually no economy in this country now that the oil sanctions have shut off all oil exports, $180 million a day worth of revenue. All of his overseas assets are frozen. He has fuel lines that grow daily. I was in a taxi just yesterday where the driver was in a very good mood because after 5 days he'd managed to fill his tank. Some signs now of food shortages. Of course, he's not without cards of his own, and one of those is the NATO ability to continue this air campaign. 10,000 sorties now, 4,000 of them strike sorties. The principal nations involved in that air campaign, United States, Britain and France, putting pressure on their NATO partners to step up and take a larger share of the burden. Why is that? Because there's an exhaustion factor there. So still all to play for. Still a war that will end quickly or continue for months, depending on one man, Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi.